Before we actually call a meeting to order, that allows some late arrivals to come in. And if you haven't signed in, I ask that you please sign in, at least before you leave. But if you want to do it right now, that's good too. My name is Ron Hopkins. I chair the Southeast Area Community Policing Council. And I'm glad to see you all here. And you'll learn more about us as we go along. So I'm going to go along here. Caroline, if you want to.
Sure. My name is Caroline Bobby, and I'm on the council, also the Community Policing Council of the Southeast Heights.
Laura Hoffman, just here from Mark Park, which was there for the celebration and the media walk.
I'm Nicole Chavez Lucero. I am in charge of the Community Policing Council at APD and their community outreach program.
I'm Earl Higgs. I'm with the Southeast Area Command. I'm one of the officers that
I'm Jeff Lutterus, with the Albuquerque Police Department, working in the Southeast Area Command.
My name is Ralph DePalma. I work with the City Solus, the lead minister for the Albuquerque Street Outreach.
and I'm sitting down over here just as an interested individual.
WOTNA.
You want to explain what that is?
West Hometown Neighborhood Association.
Thanks.
My name is Tony, and just an interested party.
What's your last name?
Huh?
What's your last name?
I'd rather not give it to you. That's fine.
Undercover or?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you all put it that way,
What's your badge for?
Huh?
What's your badge for?
Citizen grand jury. Citizen investigative police.
What can you say about that?
Because I choose not to. I have the freedom of choice not to give you my last name. Is that okay?
That's fine.
That's
No
fine.
problem.
I know it's fine, no problem.
I'm Bill Cass. I come to a lot of police meetings.
I'm Ann Cass, and I'm interested as a citizen to try to help the CPC, help the public, help the police to make the changes that need.
Thank you.
I'm Trill Christensen, and I'm here for the League of Women Voters.
Hi, I'm Amanda Bustos. I'm with the Civilian Police Oversight Agency, and I'm the Community Engagement Specialist.
I'm Ben Harness. I'm the director of the Civilian Police Oversight Agency.
Let's go over to the back corner over here.
Oh, yeah. My name is Bob Modis. I'm with the Neighborhood Watch block captain in Florida Street. I just saw it and I was curious to see what this is. My first time here.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
My name is Edwina Cairo. I'm a member of the Valley Area Command Community Policing Council.
I'm Jim Larson, just a concerned citizen.
Gary Donnermeyer, new to Albuquerque, and curious about what was going to go on at the meeting, very interested in safe neighborhoods.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Barrett. I'm a community organizer. I usually work with youth, and so I live in this area, and so I got invited out today, so glad to be in the space.
Terry Fun, I'm a concerned citizen. My wife is
Denise Barnum. Yeah, we're relatively new to Albuquerque, and we're very interested in finding out more about this area. We live in this area.
great.
Susan Naslund, from a property owner in the neighborhood. Lynn Naslund.
With Susan Ann.
Good, thanks for coming.
I'm Jenny Metzel with Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless. I also represent the APD Forward Coalition. And I'm really excited to be here at this particular CPC meeting because I live in the area and I own 2 properties here.
Danny Wadley, the director of the Rock at Noonday, and also a co-chair with Rick Muir of the Mental Health Response and Advisory Committee.
Bernadette Fernandez, concerned citizen.
Linda Donahue.
I'm Charlie Harrison. I'm on Global Freelance Forward.
And my name is Pete Dinelli. I'm a former Albuquerque City Councilor. I've lived north of the State Fairgrounds now for 38 years. And when I was Chief Public Safety Officer, I did a lot of work in this area with the Safe City Strike. And I actually wanted to come and watch my young son, Tom O'Connell. This is his first meeting. I'm very proud of him. I'm just kidding, he's not my son. At least you better not be, right? Next week, thank you very much.
I'm Marty Pence. I'm just a visiting guest of Nancy Hopkins here, and I'm interested in mental health issues.
I'm Nancy Hopkins, your chairperson is my husband. But I'm interested in mental health work and the monitoring the bond money that the county's dispensing and making sure it's used for new programs.
Jeff Archuleta, our chief from Chester Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm more interested now than Miss Nancy. I'm really interested in what she's talking about because I work with veterans at the VA hospital, a lot of them with SMIs, severe mental illnesses, helping them get back to work.
Heidi Williams, and just trying to be important.
I'm Mike Wachowski. I'm shifting from concerned citizen with 40-plus years of voluntary community service as a new member of the council, and leave it at that.
I'm Riley Jordan, I'm a member.
I'm Frank Ernst. I'm a voting member of the CPC and crime prevention chairperson for the neighborhood Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association, and a block captain for my neighborhood watch, and have a primary interest in helping everybody help themselves to get from becoming victims of crime, because the police department is undermanned now, and they can't be everywhere all the time. So we all need to be more engaged in our own safety.
I'm Tom O'Connell. It's my first meeting with the council. I graduated from the 50th class of the Citizen Police Council in November. I encourage everyone to take that class. It's very arduous. It's 6 hours a week, twice a week, for 12 weeks. It's not easy to do. I have a full-time job. And I'm interested in criminal justice reform and policy reform. That's why I'm here.
Great, thank you all for coming. One of the things I'm going to ask is, as we have things to discuss, if you have a question, please raise your hand. We're trying to be kind of organized here and keep things rolling. And so I'll recognize people as they raise their hands when they speak. I'll call the meeting to order now. We do have a quorum for our meeting. The first thing to do by the board is to approve the agenda that we have in front of us. If I have any additional things to add to the agenda, please bring them forth now. Yes.
I understood, finally from the draft, that we're supposed to keep in the agenda. Oh, this is
number 9.
The minutes. Okay, my comment is for the minutes. Okay, sorry.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, agenda is approved. Moving forward. We have an approval to make of the November minutes. I apologize, we didn't make copies of the November minutes for everyone. Let me explain what happened. We had a joint meeting at the Albuquerque Police Department Training Academy with the Valley Command. And when the minutes came out and we originally received the minutes, they were very focused more toward the Valley Command than they were for equal time for the Southeast area. So I modified the minutes to include the Southeast area and everyone that attended the meeting and some of the specific things that we discussed as our part of that meeting. It was an excellent meeting. We had 4 speakers at that meeting. Our new district attorney, Raul Torres, was present. We have a representative from the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department. We had a representative talking about bicycle command and cops on bikes and how we want to have all of those brought back into action. And so one of the groups in Southwest was talking about, a sergeant there was talking about how she was organizing some very specific actions taken so they could have bicycle patrols again. And our fourth speaker was,
I'm sorry.
our fourth speaker at the meeting was.
Sheriff, you had Raul, you had Lieutenant Campbell. That's all you had.
No, there was four.
There was so much.
Yeah, well, they're in the minutes, but anyway, it was an excellent meeting. So I sent you all copies, people on the council, copies of November minutes, and so now I'm asking for approval of our revised version of the November minutes. I did send a copy to the Valley Command so that they would have a copy of my modifications to their minutes. So I'm asking for approval of the November minutes. Any comments, questions? Todd? Todd, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Todd Kirstein, CPC. Just got done completing the Cesar Police Academy, learned a lot, so that's who I am. And I have some relatives that have businesses in this area, so also connected to a golf facility, so I'm just trying to connect community with foster relationships between the golf course and police with the help of the golf course. So it's another venue that I'll be looking at in the years to come. Thanks.
So a motion to approve the November minutes. Second. Any questions? Any discussion on November minutes? We looked at them at the December meeting, and we conditionally approved the minutes with the changes that I made, and I sent out copies of the new version to all by email. So I'm calling for a vote now. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I've got a question about our minutes. According to the draft, it sounds like we're supposed to be keeping, including the minutes, the voting members that were present.
Yes.
And I don't see them in any of our minutes.
In the November.
Well, any of them.
Okay.
The revised one was sent
So,
today.
The revised version was
do
sent
we
to
want the
everyone.
revised version sent out?
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't get that, yeah. Thank you.
And just to let you guys know, we do have a website now. We have brochures back here and little cards that have the link to the website. You have information on our calendar for all 6 area command community policing councils. You have all the agendas and the past minutes and any information for you to look up so that you have all of that.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the November minutes, say aye. Aye. Okay. Now we're going to look at the December minutes. Okay? And so we have a copy of the December minutes. You have a copy of the Sorry, do you want to introduce yourself?
You can come over. That's fine.
Introduce yourself.
Sergeant Gonzalez, the Southeast Area Command, and I'll be speaking later about our status and problem areas.
Thank you.
I'll leave you to the book.
Yes, we're going to vote on the December minutes. Any questions? Asking for a motion to approve the December minutes of the meeting. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Business part of the meeting is. We have 2 invited guests, and with the correspondence with Danny and with Jenny, I want to first introduce Dan Watley. You're going to talk a little bit about what you have going on in terms of the homeless, and then I will introduce Jen, and we'll do the same thing with you, Jen. You can talk about your programs, that sort of thing. I'm asking that there be no questions during the presentations. We'll wait until both Dan and Jen have finished, and then we'll take any questions of them, okay? So, having said that, I have some quick bio notes from both of them. Danny Wiley, Executive Director at the Rocket Noonday, formerly Noonday Ministries, was born and raised in Alabama. He spent 9 years with the Birmingham Police Department in Birmingham, Alabama, and 23 years with the United States Marshal Service. He retired from the Marshal Service the last day of December 2007, and the very next day became the director at Noonday the very first day of January 2008. He is a graduate of the University of Alabama in Birmingham, married to his lovely wife Roberta for 43 years, has 2 grown children, Amy and Michael, and 5 lovely grandchildren. Granddaughters.
That's right, granddaughter.
Thank you. Okay, Dan, you got it.
All right, that's good. Ron, I appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to be here to this committee. This is not Jenny and I our first rodeo. We've spoken to other groups before. And of course, immediately after my introduction, you're supposed to look at me and say, gosh, you didn't look that old. But I was retired for 8 hours, actually, from the Marshal Service, and working with the homeless through the Rocket Noonday, formerly Noonday Ministry, is the most challenging work that I've ever done, the hardest work that I've ever done, but the most rewarding work that I've ever done. The Rocket Noonday is the largest day shelter in the state of New Mexico. We've had, last year we just finished with our numbers, we've had over 118,000 meals at our facility. So we're a day shelter, which means that we don't provide housing at night. We open in the morning at 8, and close in the afternoon at 4, so we do breakfast, lunch, we do showers, we can do 80 showers at our location per day, 40 on the men's side and 40 on the ladies' side. And laundry, we do laundry at our facility, and it's just one of those things that God's given us an amazing building. We've got a huge place that a lot of folks partner with us. We partner with, in fact, we partner with Jenny Shop, the Healthcare for the Homeless, where they have a triage unit that goes out and they come to our facility and they're there today. We partner with Christian Legal Aid. They come in and help our folks with legal assistance and issues. We do the Veterans Stand Down every year, partnering with the Veterans Reintegration Center here in town. We've been doing that for several years. It's just, we're the largest facility. We tried to locate from the downtown area. We were at 101 Broadway for 33 years, and been at our current location for 2 at 2400 2nd Street. Tried to locate and try to move into an area, more industrial area instead of residential, and try to take that pressure off the neighborhoods. As we all know, that we've been successful somewhat, but it's still, a tremendous burden on the neighborhoods as far as the services that are needed and just not having facilities to sleep at night and be in a safe place at night. So we, our city is doing a lot. Jenny and I both work on several different groups, several different committees, working with APD and with the city of Albuquerque and trying to meet the issues and address the issues that our city is facing. I will tell you, in the research that we've all done, this is not just us. I mean, this is nationwide. We are seeing, unfortunately, what I'm seeing in the homeless community are younger people that are homeless, millennials that have given up on looking for work, have their parents who've given up on them, and they're on the street. I mean, I'm talking kids, 21, 22 years old, that are homeless. And, most of them are college educated, or and it's just one of those things. It's a whole different, way that the homeless community looks now. In the old days when homelessness, we first started addressing those, it was war veterans that were coming back, all men for the most part, and then we started seeing ladies, and then of course now we're seeing young families. We had a young family come in today, a Native American lady kicked out of her apartment, her and her 3-year-old child with a mentally handicapped person that was living with her. They kicked out of their apartment, and now they're living in a suburban. And that's not uncommon in our city. We were able to help them with gas so they could at least find a place to live and to sleep in their vehicle. Didn't want to leave their vehicle anywhere. They go to the shelter because it would get broken into and all their stuff would get stolen. So there's a lot of issues, a lot of things that the ministries and services to the homeless are dealing with. And we're working very, very closely together. That's been one of the extraordinary things that I've seen about those that work with the homeless. When I first started, I thought it was going to be one of those dog-eat-dog things, everybody fighting for the same bone. But that's not true. It's people working together, ministries and services working side by side. It's a refreshing thing. And if you've not experienced that, seen that, I think just about everybody that's involved in this service and working with the homeless would tell you the same thing. And another thing that we're involved in, I know several of you talked about mental health. We after the Boyd shooting, there was a lot of different groups that sprung up, lots of them. And I wanted to be a part of it with my background. I wanted to be a part of that, see if I could help in any way that I could. But got pretty frustrated right off the bat. There were some groups that had agendas and said things in the meetings that I just didn't agree with, and had just about decided to give up. And then in this very room, actually, the Mental Health Response and Advisory Committee started meeting in this room. There was probably 150 people to start with meeting, and then whittled it down to now we have a 19-member committee. The Mental Health Response and Advisory Committee are one of the 3 groups, and this being one of them, one of the 3 groups that were created through the CASA, the Court-Appointed Settlement Agreement. And so we meet the 3rd Tuesday of the month. Rick Miera, like I said earlier, Rick Miera and I both co-chair that subcommittee and our committee, and it's made up of a lot of professionals in medical and the mental health field, and also APD, city folks. I mean, it's just a really good group of folks that are making a difference in our community. We're involved with training. We have a 3-pronged attack with them. We deal with policies, we deal with training, community engagement between law enforcement and the community. And our goals are to first give the tools for law enforcement to be able to do their job, assist them in developing training, developing policies where they can do their job safely. And also the second, and equal to that, is to restore faith in our law enforcement, to our community. So with that said, I mean, I could sit here and talk all night about, outside of my grandkids, talking about homelessness is probably one of those things that I enjoy a lot in the interaction we have with community groups like this one. But I don't want to steal any of Jenny's thunder, so.
Okay, I'll do an introduction. Jen Messler joined Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless in 1995 and has served in senior management her entire 20-plus years tenure. She has more than 30 years' experience working in community-based organizations dedicated to health, ending homelessness and poverty, and addressing violence against women. In Latin America and in New Mexico, she has developed and implemented a range of outreach and services and programs and led collaborative initiatives of a diverse community group. In 2010, she concluded 15 years at Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, whereas development and then executive director, she created a unique annual participation planning process and successfully generated up to $7 million in a sustainable public-private mix of operating revenues each year. She was responsible for health center strategic planning and alliances, organizational development, policy advocacy, and board development, including consumer governance and leadership. After a 2-year hiatus, in late 2012, she was fortunate to return to her executive director role at AHCH with an even stronger commitment to the services and advocacy mission of that organization. She She's the president-elect of National Healthcare for the Homeless Council. She holds a BA in Spanish and Latin American Studies from Beloit College and a master's in public health from University of Michigan. She recently completed the UCLA Anderson School of Management, Johnson & Johnson Healthcare Executive Program. Welcome, Jen.
So I think what that bio says when I hear it is just, like Danny, I walked away from this work and had an opportunity to come back to it. And I feel I have that much conviction and commitment to addressing and ending homelessness. So at Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, our vision is to live in a world that is just and without homelessness. We're a federally qualified health center. We've been around for 30 years. We have professional staff who are paid well to do high-quality integrated healthcare. And we also work to end homelessness. So we don't want to just provide services forever. We see homelessness as one of the primary causes of homelessness is not having access to health care and the resources for care, which bankrupts people, which we all know. We've been talking about that now, particularly with the Affordable Care Act, and however you feel about that for a while. It's brought the issue to the fore. And then having health conditions and issues that are exacerbated and acute. I mean, imagine just living without a home. It'll make you really sick, and ultimately people die on the streets. And so healthcare is really critical in ending homelessness for individuals and working with other partners to find solutions. And we also spend a lot of our time doing advocacy as well as services, but also trying to engage in dialogue with many different community groups. We are part of the community. We work in a neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood. I think all of you know that homelessness is everywhere across this community. It's not just downtown or in any particular neighborhood. So having an opportunity to come out and talk is important. I see a lot of known faces and some neighbors and some new faces. And in terms of the services that we provide, without going into a big old detailed laundry list, generally we provide primary medical care, dental care. We also provide social services that are integrated, helping people find housing, good old-fashioned social work. We provide behavioral health treatment and therapy, both for substance use integrated and for mental health issues. And we do all of our services primarily service-based at our site down at First and Mountain. We also do outreach. So outreach is not just about finding people to bring them into our services. It's not, sometimes that's the goal, sometimes that works there within four walls, but we also are part of a national model that's developed over 30 years across the country, working with the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council and the federal government, the Department of Health and Human Services, to take services out in the field. So our medical director can provide care at a shelter or out of a van at midnight. We have a medical provider at the Fair and Square on East Central every Friday night. And they're doing prevention services. We also have a medical provider there. Our nurses can go out and do wound care. We were over at Danny's shop on a Sunday in December, mobilizing our staff. People were doing, we housed in 3 months at the end of the year, we did some extra street outreaches, and our housing coordinator was out. And as a result of her going on outreach and not just sitting in an office and having people come in and fill out forms, we housed 11 people in 3 months. Street, literally camp to housing. No need to go to shelter first or anything else. So we take our integrated services out for people who will never grace our threshold, and we also provide services down at our campus, which are all welcome to come down and visit. Ernest was just down on our tour the other day, and it's great to see you here. We have about 100 staff. We have many, many, many different funding sources. They're federal, state, city, county, private, philanthropic, great support from donors. We do also prevention. We do Narcan and syringe exchange. That's our real public health program. Do that out in the field. We do overdose prevention. We do Suboxone in integrated teams. So we do treatment of opiates in our medical clinic, but also with the psychosocial therapy and social services. So when I talk about our services, that makes a lot of sense to some people, both as patients, anytime you've been a patient or a client of healthcare, which most of us have at some point, or as a provider or a service organization leader. But our model, we provide quality health care because we have to, because the mainstream system isn't really equipped to serve someone who has every single one of their belongings on their back, who maybe hasn't showered, who's really, really sick, who doesn't have insurance. And so I think that's changing. People are learning more about how to serve the population now that they have Medicaid. But really what's different about us, we provide those same services, we're like First Choice, First Nations, Molina, the other outpatient clinics. What's different about us in just real basic terms is that we don't wait for people to come find us. We don't ever take a penny for services. There are no co-pays. We don't charge. We might bill Medicaid, but we don't require anyone to have Medicaid. We go out and find people and do the outreach that I described. We accompany people. That's navigating or providing client advocacy services, or like I said, case management, housing navigation and specialists, whatever that means. People are not accessing, for whatever reason, they're not accessing the resources, whether it's the VA or SSI, SSDI, whatever it is that they are eligible for, they're not navigating those systems and accessing those resources well. So we work to help them, good old just basic social services. We don't try to build empire. We don't try to be all things to all people. We're an integrated primary care service, and we know what we do. We're about healthcare to a particular population. So we collaborate extensively, tangibly. Formally, we have probably 200 memorandum agreements or contracts to work with others because we know we can't be all things to all people. And we do try to change the world. So again, that's our advocacy mission and our policy work. That's why we love coming out talking with you all. We work a lot with our neighbors, and we work a lot on the streets necessarily and in our neighborhood with the Valley Area Command specifically, and with the crisis intervention folks we have forever. And we actually are very fortunate, I think, and I was talking to the Valley CPC at some point, and we are in touch all the time with the area command there, the leadership, the officers that are out. Some come in and have a cup of coffee. When we have a lot of drug dealing in the area, I was reading your minutes, we all know sometimes these things, drug dealing and syringes and garbage and using and everything else. And so, that happens on our corner too, and we want to be good neighbors. So we work with with 4 different neighborhood associations particularly, and we work with APD there. And we've really, together with Danny, even other service providers, as we've expanded out from our one little corner of services, we've really learned how to talk to one another, how to work with one another. We've been doing that for a long time. So after Mr. Boyd died, we too wanted to do something, and we became a part of a new coalition called APD Forward. It's about 2 or 3 years old now. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to take our experience of working across stakeholder groups for the safety and the benefit and the health of our entire community, everyone. And learn, as Danny was saying, ways to talk to one another and to work, somehow be involved in this reform process. So APD Forward is an organization, it's a coalition of 18 diverse organizations committed to that community feedback loop on reform, essentially, for successful reform. And at first we worked to, one of our objectives was to facilitate and be a part of the support for a court enforceable settlement agreement, which exists now, to identify what we thought were important competencies for an independent and qualified monitor, and we felt that Dr. Ginger met those competencies. At the time, we didn't endorse an applicant, but we thought that he brought that experience to make sure and support that there be enough resources for reforms to be successful for everyone, and then to engage with communities. So APD Forward spends a lot of time talking at CPCs, with police oversight board members, CPOA. We meet with the mayor, we meet with the chief, we meet with the parties, we meet with the Department of Justice, we meet with community groups, we do community roundtables, surveys, canvassing, to really try to get that flow of information about what's happening in reform, just for everyone to find ways to facilitate dialogue and bridge that. So if anyone wants to know more about APD Forward, some of you already know a lot about it, there's a website, I'm happy to talk about it, but Danny and I also always really enjoy being out and just taking whatever questions, whatever's top of mind, and sharing what else we can that would be useful.
Okay, we're ready for questions. Pete, in the back.
Yeah, can you give us any information regarding the 2 years ago they enacted the behavioral health tax? Are you guys involved in any of that implementation?
No, no.
No information on that?
Not directly involved, yeah. We have a couple board members that are on some of the subcommittees that are making the recommendations, but I don't know if anyone else in the room is more directly engaged in that.
It sounds like, from what I'm, again, and I'm doing the same thing, that we have several Rick Vieira's involved in it extensively, and it sounds like from what I'm seeing is they're going to spend a lot of that, if I've got the right, I may be in the right church in the wrong pew, but as far as those getting out of jail, homeless getting out of jail, those experiencing mental health issues, that's where a lot of that money is going to be spent. And we think, of course, that we're talking $16-17 million, that that's going to solve the problem, and that won't even scratch the surface. And so it is one that there's a lot of different ideas on what to do with that money. That money's been spent, I think, 16 ways from Sunday. But I don't think they've got a good group, that they put together, the county and the city all working together. But it's just one of those where that's just not a lot of money.
Brian, you have a question?
Yeah, kind of a general question. I was driving over next to an outdoor pool, public pool by San Pedro, south of Catherine, where a bunch of homeless were hanging out. And I noticed one guy squatting next to the building, defecating in front of God and the whole world, and it came to me, why can't we have porta potties in the areas where the homeless hang out? Like that pool, for instance, which was closed.
It's one of the most basic, essential things. And I've been doing this for 20-some years in Albuquerque, and it...
Started when she was 12.
But it's one of the real essential questions.
Yeah.
In this community. We grew up in Portland, Oregon, and they have this whole, there's technology in terms of safety and how it's used and maintenance and everything else. And up there, they have them just out on sidewalks, and they're kind of open but closed, but, it's for anyone. It's public for anyone. So I think there's solutions in other communities.
Is it a lack of money or lack of care by public officials?
I think there's one of the things that you run into with that, and you will see that Jenny and I always don't agree, and I'm thinking from a law enforcement perspective a lot. It's a huge security issue and safety issue. Some of the portalettes that were downtown were being used for prostitution and drug sales and those kind of things. So there was a lot of different things. There are ways to do it. If we talk about housing and different things like that as far as emergency housing, and I always look at the 3 S's when I'm thinking about that. In the same way with portalettes or good places to go to the bathroom, and that's security, site, and sewer, water, and those kind of things. And that security is huge.
Yeah.
It really is. The thing about it is, if you lived across the street from that park, would that portalette, be a positive or a negative? I don't know.
I do want to say, because we're in a city community center, I talked a lot with the city leadership about this. To some extent, these are beautiful places, and I think they're in many ways underutilized. Again, they're throughout the city, and people experience homelessness throughout the city, and sometimes there are encampments where people cluster or areas where people hang out. There are community-based places where people are, and there are staff in some of these places that welcome people for exactly addressing some of those basic needs. And Danny can do some of that in his place, I can do some of it in our place, but we don't want to be the bathroom for Albuquerque. That doesn't make any sense. And so I think if we look more at integrating across the community, and how just little community spaces that we all use can also welcome, then we wouldn't have these critical masses to use the restroom. I think there are underutilized community spaces where we can make that work too.
I got another question, if I may.
Danny, you have another response?
No, I would agree. There certainly are community centers, those kind of things that could be open, that are manned. But the after-hours thing, on Mondays, when I go back in after the weekend, we have a meal served at our facility every day. But on Monday, it's power wash time when I get back. On Monday morning, we have to go through. Because again, guys don't have anywhere to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And my parking lot becomes the outside toilet.
Right.
I wanted to respond to your question. That is, I remember a few years ago, at least 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, there was a big flap when so-called public toilets in the Old Town area. There was this big dispute about who's going to maintain those, who's going to pay for it. The merchants in the Old Town area didn't want to do this, and the city had some role in that. But it seems to me it's a lack of public commitment to solving this problem. That it's not something that calls for a project where we put a porta potty in a neighborhood and then we move it when there's another need somewhere else. It really needs a program that's ongoing that demonstrates the public commitment to taking care of basic human needs. And that's certainly a basic human need. So, but the examples are that if it's left to the business community, they don't want to do it and they shouldn't do it. But it should be a commitment that we as the public, as the community make to our government.
Just a comment, but I've noticed that, especially around art, when they were talking about bathrooms and stuff, it seemed like a lot of neighborhoods had issues with putting public restrooms in.
Right.
And it's not, I mean, it's your neighborhoods, not necessarily businesses that don't seem to want that in place either.
I'll tell you that, I mean, we talk about bathrooms so much, you know, because it is a safety thing. And we, you know, for a while, we had people that would come in and they would overdose and lock themselves in. We have restrooms open, as long as our facility's open, we have a restroom open to the public in every single building. We just, you know, and we'll staff it, we'll stagger staff that way on lunch breaks so that we can make sure that it's safe and accessible and dignified. Which is really important too, is we don't want, you know, we don't want to enforce certain behaviors, we just want to make sure that people have access to a restroom. We have less trouble, you know, we have found ways to just make that a normal part of the routine of our health clinic, and our services, and our resource center. I'm not gonna pretend that the porta potty thing is a solution or that it's easy, because we won't. I think we ran through all the contracts. We tried to have them in our parking lot. They got burnt down, they got clogged up with needles, they got, you know, and that's where we manage those things every single day. So it's a tough thing, and it's not a long-term solution, and it's not a community solution.
Right, get another question.
I have another question that's throughout to you guys. The Journal did a survey years ago, maybe 30 years ago, about homelessness and interviewing those who were homeless. And they found that like 60–70% of the people that were homeless had substance abuse problems. And it was only 10% of the people at that time who were just temporarily down on their luck. And of course, that was like 30 years ago. And the drug problem in our country, and probably throughout the world, has gotten so much severe since then. And 80% of the people in jail have a substance abuse problem, drug problem. Can you talk to us the specifics and what is being done to try to get people off of substance abuse problems? Because that's the majority of the crimes that are committed against us is people with substance abuse problems.
So we've been providing substance abuse treatment for 30 years.
I'm sorry?
We've been providing substance abuse treatment and referrals for 30 years as part of our integrated services.
How successful has it been?
With Suboxone, it's incredibly successful. Since we started providing, it's a medication-assisted therapy. Some people don't like it. It changes people's lives from one day to the next. It's a much kinder drug than methadone. I don't have issues with methadone, but what we found is, and we do evaluation. We get federal funding, so we don't get to just make things up. We're very accountable. We do independent evaluation with people from the University of New Mexico to look at the healthcare changes in people's lives and the housing. And so the way to address that for people who don't have homes is to get housing. Housing will improve your health status and reduce your risk of mortality and morbidity immediately. We have much more epidemiological. Unfortunately, we've had a healthcare system for 30 years across the country that serves people without homes. We have much more epidemiological data, and we have much more research to show what's effective. Getting people housed and then providing them support and treatment is important. And there are many different options. People, you know, everything from a 12-step or a faith-based program, a residential program. Things work differently for different people. The success rate or time that people can either manage their substance use issues or not use anymore, whatever those goals are to improve their lives, stay housed and stay healthy, is anywhere from 30 to 7 to people that never use again and stay housed. It kind of depends on the type of treatment, but we try to offer those ranges and referrals. I know Ralph does that as well. I don't know if the MRAC is working on substance use issues. But I think, treatment and housing.
Yeah, and I think, again, Jenny's absolutely right, but it's one of those things too where it's a broader problem than it was 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it as far as drug use, alcohol use, mental health issues. But there are those that are out there that are homeless that don't have any of those issues. And I think that's a large number. It really is as far as those. Now, it doesn't take long to be homeless, as Jenny said, to become very ill, physically and mentally. I see guys that lose their apartment, and within 3 months, they've either given up, or they're in some treatment program. And they were perfectly normal. Everything was good, no addiction problems, no nothing. But if you spend weeks or months homeless, you will develop those in a hurry.
Question over here.
Pete, you're gonna run for mayor, I heard.
I haven't made a decision.
He's gonna announce it tonight.
I'm still in the process of it.
We're having a real problem with the increase in the homeless, like Lynn was saying, young, capable, able-bodied, men and women addicted to drugs especially, but alcohol too. And the number's growing every year. We're trying to work, as we did with Marty, with Mayor Barry, unsuccessfully, for more oversight of the city-funded homeless programs. We realize the jails are full, and to a certain extent, the hands of the Albuquerque Police Department are tied. Well, I've got 1,800 calls in, for example, on repeat offenders in the last 2 years. Next to no one's going to jail. No one's getting their check docked. They're getting a check for being mentally ill. A lot of that, over 2,000 have been diagnosed from same margins in healthcare for the homeless in the last 10 years, approximately. That money, a lot of it's being spent for more drugs and alcohol. Out of those 1,800 or approximately 1,800 calls I've made in the last 2 years, next to 0 have gone to jail, or had their check docked, or got community service, or been given a citation, or even a warning ticket. And the streets are becoming increasingly dangerous. When we first got health care for the homeless off the ground at Johnson Wood Foundation Hospital, I was turning the reports into Mayor Kinney's administration. That's what we got for federal money. And for the homeless, we gave it to St. Martin's. They promised to strictly supervise the program, which they haven't. Over half the residents and business people since St. Martin's opened have moved out of close for. And it's instead of getting better or staying the same, it's getting worse. This administration has been very secretive. We went before the new Inspector General, Silvio and I, and the new auditor, I don't know if he's new. They didn't do anything for us. They won't answer our letters. We're very concerned. They've got their protection, the mayor's got his protection, the city councilors are chief. But those of us out in the field have seen, we're picking up needles all over the place. And they're getting a huge number of needles to start with. And they're selling them to the younger people for $1 each, introducing to the drug sellers. The drug sellers are following the needle distribution vans. And it's for the most part, the media is not covering it the way they should. And we could sure use some help if you get it.
Well, let me address this. The reason why I'm here, I was talking to Bill Cass, and then I followed up to find out what was going on, who was going to be here, and looked at the agenda. I spent 8 years at City Hall with the Safe City Strike Force. I also dealt very extensively with homeless issues when I was Chief Public Safety Officer. One of the issues that I dealt with, for example, was where efforts were being made to feed the homeless at a park. I made sure that we reached out to try to work with the Good Samaritans that were providing food and assistance to these people. Rather than shutting down the program, the directive that I gave is that we would make sure that the food that was being served was properly maintained as far as our code with my enforcement. The homeless issue and the mental health issue is something that I take very serious about, especially when you're dealing with the mentally ill, and also the Albuquerque Police Department. To me, the greatness of a city quite often is reflected in how it treats its homeless and its senior citizens. And when I talk about homeless, it's the chronic homeless who quite often are involved with mental illness. And I believe that the city needs to dedicate far more resources than it has. I think over the last 7 or 8 years, they've cut down major programs that I feel that they should have not cut back on. Every effort that I made when I was with the Safe Cities Strike Force, especially working in this area, dealing with going after properties that were not fit to live in, we made sure that we reached out with the Family Community Services, that those that may have been displaced would be provided with vouchers, and we assisted them to find housing. And I assure you that I look back on those 8 years, I think we made a lot of progress in assisting the homeless, especially addressing the narcotics that were going on in this particular area. And we made a lot of progress, but I think a lot of that progress has now been thrown back, and we have to start from scratch. When I talk about the Albuquerque Police Department, I find it difficult to talk about. And I shared this with a very large group of people not more than a couple of weeks ago. The mental health issues in this city are very chronic. They're ones that we need to address. I'm hoping that the tax that was enacted is going to really act more as a safety net, that we'll be able to provide far more services than we can provide, that have been provided. By the way, it's $16 million a year for quite a few years. So there's a lot of hope there. And but one of the things that I'm hoping I'm going to find out tonight is what progress has been made with the training of the Albuquerque Police Department in dealing with the chronic and mentally ill. And as I said, this is an issue that I take very personally because of my background. What I recall, what happened to me when I was 12 years old, my father was mentally ill. He was a 100% disabled American veteran. Back then, they used to call it shell shock. What they call it now is post-traumatic stress syndrome. And he was going through a psychotic moment. We were desperate. We had to call the police department. And I recall vividly 2 police officers standing on both sides of him, telling him, "Paul, you need to settle down and we're going to take you in." I sometimes wonder, fast forward to today's day and age, how he would have been treated had he had a psychotic moment. Now, I'm talking a little bit emotional about it because it's I feel very strong about it. Because of the dignified way in which those police officers handled him many years ago, I'm convinced we were able to turn his life around in many respects and get him the health care that he needed. But what I also know from personal experience, that there are a lot of people in this city that have relatives that are mentally ill, that are desperate, they need help, and they need assistance. But I also know that the city quite often has turned their back on them. And maybe I've shared too much about my personal life with this group, but frankly, I think I know most of you very, very dealt with working with you, that I feel very comfortable talking about. I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you. I'm still in the process of trying to make a decision, but I'm here only because, once again, this is my neighborhood. And I hope I've answered some of your questions, but I think this organization needs to be truly committed to demanding more from City Hall, demanding more services to the Human Services Department, making sure that we fund adequately services that provide health care, whether it be dental care, whether it be additional counseling or whatever, because they are there. The city spends close to $3.5 million to $5 million assisting the homeless. But to me, they've cut it back significantly, and I think we need a rededication of that. So I hope I've answered your question. I wasn't expecting to be asked questions about whether I'm running for office or not. The reality is that I haven't decided. I still have about 3 months to make that decision. And once I make that decision, I'm going to be very comfortable with it.
So I'm going to stop the discussion right here for this moment. We'll come back to this. I have one clarification, then you guys want to respond to some of the...
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
One of the things that I believe I understand is that the 1/8% tax was voted for Bernalillo County, but the city rejected it. And the city failed to make matching funding with Bernalillo County. Bernalillo County has a funding program going on right now at about $16, $17 million from an 1/8% tax, but the city had not agreed to participate in that program at all.
It's my understanding that the county, it is a county tax, that they put together a board, and they're trying to parcel out how they're going to be spending that money. The city,
They have a Albuquerque-Community County Governing Council, ABCGC,
right,
controls that.
But the city, you are correct, the city is not participating to the level it should be participating.
The city is somewhat involved. The city has approximately $5 million separate, but they're trying to utilize the monies conjointly.
Do you understand better? Crisis intervention, and then we'll go later on. If you just want to respond to him.
So, you were asking about our advanced training on CIT?
Yeah, I understand you completed the 40 hours training for all the police officers, is that correct?
So, yes, initially a lot of us wanted to be specially trained in crisis intervention training. I was one of the first groups to ever go. This was about 9 years ago. I know Officer Higgs attended the training around the same time as well, and then eventually Officer Glover. And then we were informed that the whole department would get the training. And then under the NRAC meetings, it started becoming basically a topic of discussion about, well, what now makes us specially trained, certain individuals? Because now everyone's trained, but was it mandated? And so when someone's mandated to go to a training, are they going to have the passion that they should have and compassion at a call? So then we started with advanced training, which is called our enhanced crisis intervention training. And that's something that I just became certified in, and that these officers will be at some point as well. So for right now, we have trainings that are set up for advanced CIT training to make us specialized, once again, certain officers. And the goal there is to mainly address issues where we would have our high priority risk individuals. So that would be jumpers, people that are absolutely a risk to themselves and others, and high priority cases. So for right now, to answer your question, I can't think of how much more training we can do at this point, because we continue to do training and training and training. But we are getting specialized training, such as the advanced CIT training. You do have to have a passion to go to some of these calls. Me personally, I understand as an officer and as a supervisor that I need to be well-rounded as possible, which is why I'm not only ECIT trained, but I'm a CIT coordinator and a CNT member for crisis and any type of negotiations that are needed. So in order for us to become better, we go to these trainings when they're available.
Can I ask you, are you happy with the training you got, that you've all been given the 40 hours? And the next issue is, do you feel that there should be a program where it should be an ongoing training process, not for just the 40 hours, but every year, updates on the training to make sure that you hone in on whatever developments in mental health care may have occurred over the last couple of years?
Well, we've always
And by the way, I want to make it very clear to you, I have nothing but absolute respect and admiration for the rank and file police officers. I think that you do an incredible job And I think all too often we expect police officers to be social workers, psychologists, but you have a very difficult job. My hat is off to you, but I am very concerned about making sure that you all are getting the actual training you're supposed to be getting. And not, there was a rumor that the initial training was not to the satisfaction of the monitor. And I don't know if you want to even address that. I don't want to put you on the spot either.
Well, the best way I can answer that is, a lot of people assume, because of the DOJ settlement agreement, that we just started getting all of this training, when in reality, we always have. But is it further dissected now? Is it more talked about? Are we trying to definitely take the accountability? Absolutely. So to answer your question, we don't just get the 40 hours training. We go to reality-based training. Myself and Officer Higgs here are trained instructors for reality-based training. So it is use of force training and reality-based training all in one, which is CIT tactics. So it is teaching officers at the same time of dealing with high-stress situations how to talk to people as well. I just came from Foothills Area Command. This is a new area command to me, and we all actually just came from Foothills Area Command. And I can tell you that I spearheaded myself, a outreach program with Coast, First Nations, representatives from different organizations to just go out and do outreach with homeless at our populated areas, courses that we take. We take online courses when we find time between calls, and we also go to the academy to take classes in person. We take tests to make sure that there's an understanding and that we know that and we understand what was being taught to us. So there's a lot of accountability, but at the same token, we're getting more than just 40 hours training. Now, my advanced training was an 8-hour course, but it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I continue to go to those trainings. And as an advanced CIT officer, we will get those trainings because that's part of what MROC helps us, try and maintain that accountability, that we're always going to get refreshed updates. But I can tell you right now that in every annual training that we have, crisis intervention training, mental health, anything along those lines, homeless initiatives, anything like that, it's constantly discussed and it's constantly taught. And we bring in Coast and we bring in other organizations to help us learn more about what we can be doing as officers and utilizing those resources.
Can I just say something in support of that? I've been around for a long time and in healthcare for the homeless. And First Nations is like a sister organization. We're a federally qualified health center, share this service area. But I can remember going to the academy, and I'll say honestly, now Detective Liz Thompson and Sergeant Jean Pettit told us you can't come in and talk to the cadets that way. Like, you're not being effective with the CIT office. Like, that was one of the first times where I thought, oh, maybe we're not. I mean, the building that relationship and doing what we call downtown, it's outreach. We go out together, the service providers and with officers, and connect with people doing outreach. We had to learn how to do that together. At first it was, we can't do that. I think from both sides, we can't do that together because we have different goals, and I think we've come a long way over time. I think the opportunity with reform and with the structures of reform is to really institutionalize that, because I think, then Coast came in, and then we kind of pulled back, and then we came together more, and then, so I think that if, community-wide and institution-wide, we build on those successful relationships about how to work together and kind of shift how we all think, we can really have high impact on homelessness and poverty and crime and everything else, and just really healthier communities. So it's been a long time evolving, but I'll support, it's not a brand new thing, so I appreciate your point.
Absolutely, and that's why I brought in Officer Bloodworth to these meetings as well. I mean, this is our newer generation coming on, with law enforcement, and how do we train officers to be better, but also how do we change the mindset? We have our older officers.
Yeah, I go to the same bar for us.
But we also have our younger officers to, help kind of mold that mindset. And when I put these two together, I have a well-rounded two-man unit, if you think about it. So I've done outreach downtown several times. I just haven't met you personally, ma'am, but I can tell you for the last 5 years, it has been my goal to try and make sure that officers know more about resources. That's where a little bit of the slip came in with training, was that officers weren't ever told, you can use VA, you can use Goodwill, you can use First Nations, you can, go to the Rock. I mean, nobody ever taught them that. So there's that little bit of gap, that we just need to, yes.
Yeah, just we need to be consistent.
Absolutely. So, I'll get into it later, but these officers in particular, they're also bike certified, so what we've been doing is getting them on the bikes. We talked about that last meeting, and they've been hitting, the popular areas where we do have homeless. Like Wyoming Central is like our hub right now. We've been having several crimes come out of that area, but we go over it and we talk about it. What's our goal? It's not to necessarily cite, it's not necessarily to make an arrest, but can we incorporate codes? Can we incorporate other organizations? What are we doing to help out this individual? The only problem that we're having is there's not enough organizations to help us after hours. And we work 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So anytime after 5, I'm kind of at a loss. So that's where I would say we need more help, is after hours.
One of the things I'd like to make clear, and I won't spend too much time on it, I have immense hope that what's happening with the Albuquerque Police Department, that the training that you know are receiving, crisis intervention, is going to have a major impact on the department. What I'd like to point out is that the consent decree that the Albuquerque Police Department is under is somewhat unique in comparison to the other consent decrees. The other consent decrees have the basis of it, the culture of aggression that were found in other departments, have really addressed the issue of discrimination, whether it be race or some other basis, and excessive use of force. Our consent decree, the biggest problem that brought the Department of Justice here is the way that they're interacting with the homeless and the mentally ill especially. You can train police officers to basically deal with mentally ill. It's very difficult to train officers to get away from racism, and I think there's a big difference. You don't have a race-based consent decree. What you have is a consent decree that was brought upon us because a culture of aggression was found, and it mainly was because of the interaction they were having with the mentally ill. And that's why I think there's great hope that with the training that's being implemented and the attitudes, hopefully, that the officers are changing, that the culture of aggression that was in fact found, with a little bit of luck or with the passage of time, we're going to see a situation of major turnaround.
And the thing is that officers are adapting to this new idea of being more, being well-rounded, being trained and learning how to talk to individuals more so than they ever were before. So it's important to understand that in our training, we're not just in a classroom setting. They actually put us out off-site with trained actors, with some actors that actually do have mental illness issues, and they put us in these scenarios and they have us talk to them. And this could be, a scenario where it doesn't always necessarily work out, but you tried your best as an officer to utilize the resources that are there to learn how to communicate effectively and understand what triggers are for some of these individuals. So it's not just a classroom setting. We definitely go off-site, we do simulators, and it's like a wide variety of training that we get. So to me, it's extremely beneficial because it puts us in totally different elements and meeting with and understanding different personalities.
Ron, before we leave that, can I say something real quick? The MRAC was mentioned several times in this, in that's one of our responsibilities is to work with APD in policy and in training. One of the things that's come out of that, the MRAC, and we take great pride in that, is that the training has changed now, that the peers that law enforcement actually interact with are now teaching classes within the academy. And APD, the CIU unit, put that together. I teach a homeless class, it's APD. The other thing too, we talked about what Dr. Ginger thinks of the CIU. He says it's the best in the nation. So it's not, one of those things that you know, and what he's seeing is just, you know, he's really impressed with what's going on. And that's, you know, and he talks about the CNT, crisis negotiating team, and the SWAT team, and on all of those, the strides that they're making and the changes that are going on. And that's coming through the MRAC, is getting involved again with the community, and allowing others to come in and interact. They do a site visit to the Rock, to healthcare for the homeless. I'm not sure where the third one's at, but they go out into the fields, take the officers. And that's the key to the officers, is getting to know personally the folks that are running those facilities and are in there, and not feeling comfortable. There have been some ministries and services in town, and that's changed. But there's some that said, we don't need law enforcement here, we don't want them here. But that's changed in the fact that, you know, they're welcomed in, and we want them there. We want them to come in. We've had roll calls at the Rock at noonday, so that, you know, again, our city is changing, and what we're seeing happening with the CIU, the Crisis Intervention Unit, I think will be the model for the country. I really do. I'm impressed with what's going on, and still got a long way to go. Yes, ma'am.
Danny, does not work directly or indirectly with Heading Home?
We work with, all of us do. All of us work with Heading Home. Heading Home actually meets at our facility, once a month to interview folks. But, you know, and it's just one of those things, again, where all of us work with Heading Home.
We're founding members, and we're involved even back before it was Heading Home, and it was just it was a blueprint. Well, there was a collective group of people who, back in the previous mayor's administration, who wrote a blueprint. We know how to end homelessness. So how do you generate the community and political will? We don't need one more church basement summit where everybody gets to give their opinion. We know. We had a lot of input, so we put that together, and then eventually Albuquerque Heading Home became one piece of that, and we participate as a contracted support services and healthcare provider with the initiative.
Question over there.
Yes, this is for the officer. I attended the last court hearing before the judge, and what was presented in court amazed me. One of the things that was brought forward was that there was a document that was intercepted through the APD channel that stated that officers out in the field needed to get more aggressive. Did you get a copy of that memo? And what did that mean, or what does that mean to you, get more aggressive?
We have not received that memo, and that is not something we have ever been told or anything to that effect.
I was in the CASA that day, and actually MRAC talked about that. That was actually an officer safety issue. That was a poorly written letter. That's my opinion.
Well, it sure did come across like that.
It was an officer safety issue, and what the concern was, and it happened. I mean, what the concern was is with DOJ, you know, looking in the CASA agreement, officers were not getting involved. Officers were, you know, when there was an officer safety issue, they were erring on the side of being afraid of being sued or being afraid of the Department of Justice.
You're speaking as a former officer now, not as...
No, I'm saying as a homeowner, as a member of MRAC, as, you know, but again, like I said, that letter was written primarily for, you know, as an officer safety issue.
So this is the CERT underuse of force memo, and APD Forward is a coalition. So this is one where Danny and I see it slightly differently. And there was great, whether it was poorly written or whether it was unsubstantiated, you know, what was the documentation? I think that was the APD Forward Coalition's primary concern was that went out, it might have been poorly written, and was it well timed, who did it come from? It was very unclear, and it was in the media. It was a public thing.
Do you have a copy of this letter?
You need to read it.
Do you have a copy?
I'm sure it's posted.
I would love to see it. Can we get a copy? Is it possible to get a copy?
It threw up a red flag to those people that have been beat up by APD. Let me tell you,
Let me just see a copy of that letter.
Dr. Ginger is still examining the memo, and
Did it actually
at some
go out?
point it will be addressed. I'm not sure that it actually was distributed throughout the department. There was a memo that was drafted, and it may have gone through the command staff, but I don't believe that it went through the entire department. And Dr. Ginger has stated that he will deal with it probably in IM 5.
Okay,
one more question.
I'm going to, we've almost reached 7:30. we're supposed to finish at 7:30, we're gonna run over 7:30. We have some additional things to take care of. But I'm going to allow 2 more questions, and then we'll stop. Okay?
Danny, first of all, I'd like to compliment you on the way that, I shouldn't compliment you, I should thank God that you're here with Noonday. When we first started Noonday with Calvin and Pastor Coffee and Judge Wag, we were concerned how it would turn out, but of course, Judd and Calvin and HB are gone, but I think they'd be very happy to see how you've handled this so far. I want to say something to Mr. Dinelli while I'm talking to you at the same time. And I'm not exactly sure how to incorporate it, but it has to do with the mentally ill. And this is my 47th year working with the city soldiers. I know them very well, and what they tell me before they get the check, as being diagnosed as mentally ill, all they have to do, they want the check, and they're using the check for drugs and alcohol, and not completely, but mostly. And they're being categorized as mentally ill, whereas in times past we never included this many people in that category as being mentally ill. There's something going on where people are making money off of diagnosing people who are not mentally ill as mentally ill. And I had a conversation with George Mercer. We worked on Mayor Chavez task force together. And he's diagnosing people in healthcare for the homeless as being mentally ill. And George was telling me that there are 2 camps of psychologists, and not all of them agree, not all psychologists agree that because a man's addicted to drugs and alcohol that he's necessarily mentally ill. Now, the reason I said that, Pete, is because I heard you mention a few times address if you do happen to get involved in the future in the city, perhaps as mayor, addressing the homeless problem, that you would address the mentally ill problem. And what I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to talk with you after this meeting, and so I'd like to take advantage of this moment and say a few more things if I could.
I have a question, because I have another question with you.
I'll give you my card.
You guys can get together after the meeting, okay? Todd, you have a question?
Well, I just want to, first, Dan, I'm glad you stayed on, you had that moment of maybe not staying on, so thank you. Because I've been to their meetings and they're excellent. You guys flow very nicely, the energy between everybody there, I mean, plus the food is good. I was surprised.
We do feed well.
And speaking of that, how I was surprised, how much are you able to feed somebody? I was surprised at that figure.
Yeah, it's one of those things, we pick up donated food all over the city, and I can put a meal on the table. That's just food, not the silverware, plasticware, plates, and all this other, but I can put a meal on the plate for 25 cents. Amazing meal.
That's great.
25 cents.
25 cents.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the conversations, and I haven't been able to get back there as much, but the training, you have a subcommittee for training, resources, information, or the policy training and tools, and then you have this one handout where you have a bunch of resources. I think we have a lot of good information and resources growing, and then we have all these generations that communicate or try to find information much differently. So one thing is, I don't know, as you continue to collect data, along with the officers who make stops and the first responders, is I'm going to continue to try to find people that write software. So when you show up, you're looking at some of these groups that might overlap with resources, or some who might not just take females or just males. See, there's a lot of, seems like, ways that an algorithm can kind of get the information to the first responders so that they can move on to the next. So continue to collect that data, and I just go back to peeling away the layers of the dual diagnosis, treatment, to where maybe we continue to educate even as parents on helping their kids maybe get help before they get to that age 18 while they're still have those resources. That might be, but that's part of the education process. So, but anyway, I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing, and I just recommend everybody for going to these meetings, because you guys do a great job, and we'll keep collecting that information and making this model good. Thanks.
Dan, thanks very much for coming, being here with us. We appreciate everyone joining us tonight for this discussion dialogue.
And let's do the crime stats, because I know a lot of people want us to go over the Southeast
Yeah, we'll
crime
go to the
stats.
crime, we'll skip past some of the things, and we'll go to the crime stats. Sorry,
All right, so for the January 2017 crime stats, our crime prevention specialists went ahead and gathered all the stats. Reference to property crimes with auto theft, we had 268 incidents. Auto burglaries, 233. Residential burglaries, 94. And commercial burglaries, 29. Family offenses, which is going to be our domestic violence situations, or simple assaults, we have 254. Aggravated battery, 68. And robbery of any type, which is carjacking, commercial robbery, 49. What was presented to me was our busiest crime day of the week is Wednesdays in the Southeast area command. I know you would probably think the weekends, but this particular couple of months has been Wednesday. And our busiest crime hour is about 3 p.m.
What kind of crime are you talking about?
All that I've stated as a general.
Everything goes up at 3 o'clock on Wednesday.
Wednesday, 3, there it is.
Those are our crime stats, but I mentioned it before. These are 2 of the 4 officers that I have that are bike certified, that have been going out and trying to address any needs by the community or by commercial businesses, or any type of emails that we get, or any meetings such as these where there's problem areas. They've been going alongside Central, bus stops, just trying to see what resources are needed and to address any type of issues. As far as some businesses have been complaining about tent cities in the alleys next to their businesses, or trespassing. So instead of, like I said, fighting an individual, we would go and make contact to see where is the problem and how can we solve it to its best needs.
And I think working with the organizations that can provide with the classical contact with people like that, having them be able to talk to them and get them help with some of the organizations like we heard from is
Sure.
really, really good.
So if you guys could just give some feedback on what we've been working on in the past 2 weeks. So we'll work the task plan 3 times a week, and we've done it for 2 weeks now. And if you could just kind of give some feedback on your interactions alongside Central, and how that's been going.
So the 2 sisters, they actually had to leave, but they have a problem area at 900 Louisiana Boulevard Southeast. There's a vacant building there. There's a couple vacant properties that are on there, and then there's lots of trash, mattresses, abandoned vehicles, things like that. So myself and another officer, Officer Keeling, as well as Officer McPeak, I never had the opportunity to ride with Officer Higgs, but we would ride our bicycles in that area.
They were here last month.
Yes. Yep, they were here last month. And so we contacted several people that lived in the apartment complexes, figured out what cars were supposed to be there and not there. And we got the vehicles that were not supposed to be there out in the alleyway. And then we were able to contact Waste Management and other resources to clean out the mattresses and a lot of the trash over there, as well as to reboard the homes. Sadly, the homes have been rebroken back into, and we're going to be going back out there tonight again. But that's just one of the biggest things that we've been able to do. As well as myself and Officer McPeak, we had rode our bicycles in the Knob Hill area, as well as by UNM. We made several just contacts with the young college kids. Just had good contacts with them, talking to them about the problems that they see and that they're facing while on campus and off campus. Like the big thing that we noticed is a lot of auto burglaries while they're out to eat at the Frontier and all the other restaurants in the area. And so just keeping a good presence in that area is the biggest thing that we've been able to do, and just make positive police contacts.
Great.
And then the past 2 days, I've had, yeah, you're gonna talk.
Your turn.
I've had Officer Higgs and Officer Keeling, who's taking calls right now. They've been on the bikes this week. So I'm constantly trying to change it up so that the officers can kind of break up the monotony. And they're all certified that here. Why not utilize all these resources? And especially with Officer Higgs, with his years on, he can offer a lot.
So how they
30 years, right?
Yes. 30 years. So how they normally do it is the younger officers usually work a little bit more to the west because it's a little bit busier area. So that's why he works over there. The older guys, the seasoned ones, the ones that carry extra 40 pounds, they work a little bit slower area. So essentially, I was assigned the 1900 block of Lafayette. There's a small park that runs parallel to I-40, and what we were getting was a lot of the panhandlers and stuff that were up on the interstate were coming down and camping out. So myself, I had a recruit at the time. We weren't on bikes, we were doing foot patrols essentially. Foot patrols, never heard that, huh? So we would park and we would walk into the park area, and the first night we went in about 7 o'clock, we found some graffiti, did a graffiti referral, and there's some mattresses and stuff. So we called State City and had them remove that. We did some periodic watches in there, and then we finally we came across a young homeless man that was actually traveling through the city, and the ordinance about camping in the city parks and stuff. So we directed him and helped him out and get him out of the area he was in and get him some shelter for the night. So that pretty much took care of that problem. So we still do periodic watches in the 1900 block of Lafayette, but there's not any activity in there. There hasn't been any, some dog walkers and stuff. And then this week I got assigned pretty much from Louisiana to Eubank, just working the bus stops and making public contacts. And actually a lot of people are happy that you're on bikes. You know, you get a lot of compliments about the bikes. Oh, we're glad to see you. I haven't seen you guys out here or not. Whatever. So we have some citations. We were working some parking citations, some abandoned vehicles on the side of the roads and stuff like that, right off of Central. There was a couple of guys that were fighting at the bus stop. We separated them and ended up giving them some citations for that. We made some contact with some homeless people, offered them assistance. Most of the bike officers, when we carry a little pack with us, and it has a little bit of everything. It has trespass notices, it has citations, but it also has pamphlets for the homeless shelters and phone numbers for assistance and stuff like that. So we'll be handing them out. And we were, yes sir?
Go finish your.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've been pretty busy. The first night we rode for about 8 hours. Last night we were extremely busy, so we only rode for about 2 hours, and we had to come off the bikes because there's too much activity in this area.
Can you tell us how many sworn officers are assigned to this area command and how they're broken up according to the 3 shifts?
I can't give you the exact numbers, maybe the sergeant would. I can tell you that this area command has more manpower than the foothills, the southwest, and the northwest. Because we have a swing shift that actually comes in from 3 to 3, so we have more manpower than the other 3 area commands that I mentioned.
It's my understanding we have 860 sworn police officers, but only 436 are assigned to the field services. And those 436 are divided throughout the entire city.
Correct, and there are some area commands that have more officers than others. Obviously in the northwest, there's not as much crime, different types of crime than there are in the southeast.
And that's why I'm asking, this is the highest crime area, how many sworn officers do you have per shift? Can you give me a guess?
We should have 8 officers per shift. On a given day, we have 3 to 4 shifts on day shift, 1 swing shift, and 3 graveyard shifts. And you're talking 8 officers per shift.
To cover the entire district.
Correct.
How many do you actually need to do your jobs?
The only way I can answer that is to say that if we had at least 150 officers added to the police department, we would be really well off. I work with recruiting and backgrounds on the side, and I can tell you right now that it is not for a lack of effort. It is the process itself. The candidates are not passing the physical tests and the written tests that are given by the city. So the city entrance exam, it's being failed constantly. The physical standards, which were set even lower than normal, are not being passed by our 20 and 30-year-olds. So we're getting a lot of applicants, it's just a lot of people are not passing the test.
There was supposed to be a lateral class also last year.
They
What happened to that
graduate
lateral?
next week, I think.
What was that?
The graduation is, I believe, next week. Or
How many are going to graduate?
we only had, I think, 4 or 5 that came over.
Right? Does the department then follow up with those applicants that failed the written or the physical to help them overcome those hurdles?
Yes, so that's actually something that I started with the applicants that couldn't pass the city. So it's a 3-day testing process. The first day is the city entrance exam. If you pass that, and you go on to the second phase, which is the second day of physical training, the physical assessment, the 1.5 mile, 300-meter run, and push-ups. And then after that, you do another written test, which is our Nelson-Denny test. And if you pass that, then you go on to the third day, which is our psychological test, and it's written. And then you go on to psychological test or interview with our psychologist, and then they'll call you out. And then a full background check. After all of that is done, if I were to give you just a ballpark figure, we would have 200 applicants, and at the end of that process, we might end up with 30 to 40.
Okay, but my point is, my question was.
Yes,
okay,
so-
if you have somebody who's failed maybe the written exam, you know, they got 60 instead of 70, say.
Correct.
Or somebody was 5 sit-ups short or something. Is there an educational program or a physical education program that can help them overcome those hurdles so then they can become a candidate?
The answer is no, there is not. There's 1 person in recruiting, there's 4, maybe 4 officers, no, I'm sorry, maybe 3 officers with backgrounds. We don't have the manpower to have something like that. What I do is on my off time, I'll meet with those individuals, I'll meet with them right after the test if it is determined that they've failed the Nelson, Denny, or the city entrance exam. I give them my email, and I tell them, if you want to, work on this together and we can work on a plan on, what can get you there to that next level. You have someone that's gonna make a 68 and maybe 70, they're so close, then I'm going to work with them personally. And I've had, sessions where there's 3 people that will come in, or, 5 people, or just 1 person. But I'm doing that on my off time, because that is something that I observed through the testing process, that we're not necessarily offering that because we can't. We don't have the manpower. But
Could it be something that could be part of the recruitment process, so that once you identify candidates who are interested in the position, who are close, is it something that the recruiting department could follow up with them and start a tutorial program, start a physical fitness regimen for them to help them get over those hurdles?
if we had enough manpower, that would be very possible, but they're getting 2 attempts. So once if they don't pass that city entrance exam, they could come back within a few weeks and retake it. The problem that we're having is that they're still not passing it the second time. And some pass it the second time, and then they get to go on to the next phase. So it's not like they get eliminated right off the bat if they don't pass the first time.
You're doing all this though in-house with an APD, right?
Correct.
Why isn't more being relied upon by the Department of Human Resources Department of the city?
this is something that is being worked with, on by the lieutenant of the academy. So I would say any further questions I would get with him, because I'm someone that I work on the side to try and help out with recruiting.
Don't
But I would
take,
go
don't
with-
take my questioning, I don't mean to be antagonistic at all. I get very frustrated when I hear this, because I know full well APD is all in-house, when they should be relying upon the Human Resources Department of the city to give you a hand. There's where you're gonna have.
It's recommended though that the city have 1.5 officers per 1,000 people.
What was that?
Across the board. It's recommended to have 1.5 officers per 1,000 people. So right now, I mean, we have maybe one officer for like 2,500 people. So I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, it is all in-house.
Okay,
and
the
that
WISE,
needs to be
the WISE
focused on.
report said we needed 1,000 officers. But I know in fact, 8 years ago, it was recommended that we needed 1,200 officers.
Yes, correct, but across the board safety standards, if you read reports, most people recommend 1.5 officers per 1,000 people. So I mean, we're short so many officers, but of course, if they're doing it all in-house, we're gonna fall short, but also you have officers who are taking the extra time, putting in the extra time to help students. But, I mean, it's kind of difficult to continue to put that on there while we're recruiting and while doing all of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, we're gonna call it a shutdown here. We're forced out of here at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So we've got 15 minutes to finish up some additional. But I think one of the things that I've heard is, and we'll get together with other CPCs, but I just heard the form of a recommendation to come from the CPC to talk about some follow-up programs that possibly
For
might
the
be able to be
academy.
done.
Yeah, we can start volunteers, it doesn't have to be necessarily APD, but you could get a group of volunteers that could do physical fitness training, and you could get a group of volunteers that could tutor to help pass the test. It doesn't necessarily have to fall on you. It's great that you do that, but it seems like there's this resource that is there and willing, and they just need a little extra help to get over the hurdle, and they might be just great police officers that they just need that little extra help to start. In Milwaukee, ours was done by the association, the Black Officers, Hispanic Officers Association voluntarily. They did it and they ran everybody through the tests to go through it before they took the test.
And
I
that's
think
on you
that's-
what little I know, so
Right.
honestly, I think that this is a question for the
I'll-
academy staff, not
I'll
me.
take that to Major Tyler and just ask if they visited that, and if not, I mean, I think that's a great recommendation.
Okay, moving forward, we have a couple of business items to finish up, and then we'll be adjourned. Were there any red one reports for this month?
I enjoyed mine with Officer Bloodworth. I enjoyed it and learned a lot. And, I'll just keep it short, but one of the stops was right behind Starbucks, and then the paramedic showed up. And so that made me thinking too that I thought maybe I heard the city may look at the discussion of maybe having the fire department maybe have some PSAs of their own that might go to a scene and relieve officers maybe a little bit, that the people might not be as a threat to others. But has anybody heard of that possibility? So they're PSAs, but they're trained more from the fire department side. So that might, and, they have the Narcan and they can maybe help get to scenes and then relieve the officers.
That was a discussion that we had several months ago, and we can reopen that in the next month or two.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it very much, and thanks again.
If you can put some things in writing for me.
Okay.
Any other ride-alongs?
I guess no. I haven't done the ride along. I was supposed to do tomorrow night, and you might tell that I'm probably coming down with the cold. So, but I have worked with Juanita Gallegos at the academy, and I gave her dates for the next 6 months. And I'll probably try to do it next Wednesday. So I'm on board with that.
Gee, go at 3 o'clock, you get a lot of action.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday. There you go.
Oddly enough, that's when we start our shift, so as soon as we come on, we're busy.
Okay, any other ride-alongs? Okay, thanks very much, you guys. We do ask that each of our members of the council do some ride-alongs with police officers. One of the things about the ride-alongs is that you don't just stay seated in the car. You get out and work with the officer. We ask our council members to take a few notes. We're not trying to keep tabs on the officer we're with, but simply to come back with some comments like Todd has done. In fact, it's our ride-alongs that provide some of the recommendations that come out of the council, things that we've seen that can make things more efficient or how they're handled or something like that. So I appreciate that very much. Moving along, one little piece of thing I put on the agenda. In the past, we've worked with an actual set of bylaws. Since then, the community policing councils have come up with guidelines, and so we're going to be moving from the bylaws because we're not an official part of the APD organization. We're independent to enhance communication between the police officers, the police department, and the community. And so we worked from a set of guidelines instead. I hope you all have had a chance to look at the guidelines that I sent out to you. I compared them to the bylaws that I sent also. Are there any questions? The reason I'm asking is that you'll be making the transition to working with the guidelines and in part the bylaws. It's not an official, we don't, it's open to the public and we're independent. Any questions or anything like that? I've reviewed the guidelines. There are some modifications that I would apply to this specific area command in our policing council. The guidelines were originally drafted by some folks from the Northwest, and so you'll see in the initial guideline drafts, they mentioned Northwest. We will simply substitute Southeast for those.
Can we take time to go into more discussion in another meeting?
We can.
Yeah.
Well, I think bring it up next month.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think so.
Great. One of the things that I'm going to send you within the next week is the current APD use of force guidelines, standard operating procedures. The guidelines are reviewed every 6 months. And so I'm going to send it to the council. One of the things that happened, you serve on the council, I've got some work to do. So I'm going to send you copies of the current guidelines, standard operating procedures.
All right. I tried to go too soon.
And so we'll be discussing that at our next meeting also. Guidelines on the use of force, which will be is in revision right now for consideration. Question?
Comments, final comment?
Final comments? Yeah, I think we've moved things to the next meeting. Final comment?
Well, I think that there seems to be a little state of confusion here. I don't think that the Department of Justice came out here to fix the homeless problem. I think they came out here to fix Albuquerque Police Department. And there are several police murders that need to be addressed. And you're not addressing them. That's what these committees are for, is to fix APD.
Final comment. Ride-alongs with APD in the North Valley sector are being denied, even to qualified individuals.
You've been on 6 this year, though.
Not
They
this
just aren't
year.
allowing you more right now.
I go back with ride-alongs all the way to Keys
Right,
Park.
but how many have you done in the last year?
I've done one at the recommendation of that gentleman, Mr. Harness, to attend all CPC meetings and to do as many ride-alongs as I could within all command units. All of those ride-alongs were within a different command unit. I was also recommended by one of your officers to do a ride-along for the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department, which I did. These were all by recommendation. Now, when I put in for the last ride-along, it was for community relationships, which was occurring in the sector that I live in, and it was denied, even though I'm qualified.
If I did ask, because you brought it to the Southwest meeting last week,
Oh,
and
I
they said
have
that you've
never-
gone on 6 with them already.
I have not gone on 6 with North Valley Command.
How many have you had in the last year?
In the last 2 years, I've only had 2 ride-alongs.
In Valley Command?
I've only done one with the Valley Command.
Okay, we got your comment.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'm going to call for an adjournment of the meeting. Anita? Is Anita Rickman here? Okay. Any other comments from the council? We made it because it's been 5 minutes to turn off the lights. All right. Thank you all for coming very much. Give me a
Sergeant. May I ask who you're with? No worries. Go ahead. May I ask who you're with?